So, I have been wondering for years, every time I drive by this sign in front of Amy's Cafe, what it's about. And I've done a little research, I've pulled together some knowledgeable people, and we're going to talk about what that Birding in Virginia Trail is all about. Alright, so we're going to follow where this arrow takes us and continue on our wildlife trail. So, follow me. This is Old Town Falmouth. When you hear about Falmouth, this is Falmouth. And it's kind of off the beaten path. Most people don't even know it's there, but it's beautiful. This was what I thought was my destination, but it's not. It's actually a whole birding and wildlife trail that people drive. But anyways, so we are going to talk to a friend of mine, but also a very knowledgeable bird person that's going to explain some of this to us. All right, so Sally Knight. All right, so I have Sally here. She is going to help us explain what this birding and wildlife trail is all about. I did Google some of it, but I think she knows a little bit more than what I can explain. So, Sally, tell me what this is all about. Is it a walking trail? Is it a driving trail?
Well, hi, Carrie. It's good to see you. Thanks for meeting you here.
I know.
It's a driving loop, stopping at different birding or wildlife or historic places along the way. And each stop, you then get out and walk and learn about the wildlife or the historic aspects of the trail.
All right. So is this just a Stafford County thing, or is it everywhere?
It's a Virginia trail.
Virginia trail.
And there are 65 driving loops.
So we're just we're one of the lucky counties that have this opportunity to do this.
Exactly. So Stafford County has this loop, which includes Fredericksburg. It's actually called the Fredericksburg Loop. But most of it is in Stafford, although I think it goes into Caroline County, a couple of other counties within it.
Okay.
And there are 8 stops on this particular wildlife loop.
All right, so here in Stafford County, what types of birds do you think we would see on this loop?
Well, depending on which site you are stopping at, you'll have a variety of different birds, and depending on what time of year. So in the winter time, that's when we get the wintering waterfowl in. They come south to get away from the really cold weather, and then come springtime, well, before spring, they migrate back north for their breeding grounds.
So depending on what types of birds you want to see, you come to these areas at different times of the year.
Exactly.
And then you can see all the different types of birds.
Yes.
So the hummingbirds that I'm seeing at my feeder right now, they're migrating. So I'm just giving them a little bit of carbohydrates as they move up the migratory trail.
Well, that is partly correct. The hummingbirds spend the winter down in, a couple of them will stay in very southern regions of the US, but most of them will go further down to Central and South America for their winter.
Okay.
And at this time of year, spring migration, the ruby-throated hummingbird comes to our region. Some of them will continue on further north, some of them will stay and breed right here with us.
Oh, okay. Because in the beginning of spring, well, I had maybe 2 or 3 of the red-throated hummingbirds, Is that what they're called?
It's one species, and it's called the ruby-throated
The
hummingbird.
ruby-throated. So I had a couple of
The
them.
male has the ruby throat,
Okay.
and the female does not have the ruby throat.
All right. So I was so thrilled because I'm like, yay, hummingbirds are here, and now they're gone. I've never seen it again. So they must have
Well,
just been
stay-
passing through.
Those ones might have been passing through, but keep putting your feeders out.
Okay.
Keep them filled up because you'll, if you're lucky, you'll have some that stay with you all summer.
Okay. So if we're putting bird feeders out, are all of those birds coming to those bird feeders? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, all those birds will come to your feeders during the winter.
So it's a good idea to have a little book there so we can learn what birds we're feeding, and
Sure.
that's probably a good idea. I noticed you had a
Absolutely.
couple books.
They came out a number of years ago, and I've had them on my bookshelf for some time. But you don't need those because it's all online now. You
Okay.
can look up all the information online. I should also mention that the Birding and Wildlife Trail, one thinks about the birding portion of it, but the wildlife is also important in that some of the loops talk about the different mammals, the amphibians, reptiles, insects, butterflies. So that's all part of this wildlife trail as well. And in addition, historical sites, like this one right here, which is Belmont, Gary Melcher's childhood.
It's not his childhood home. It was where he lived and painted at different times throughout his life.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Sally, so much for all this great information. And everybody, remember what I said. Think about pesticides, because these little critters are very affected by what types of pesticides you choose. And plant a tree, plant native plants, plant native trees that give them more places to stop over and nest and breed and eat and all that. So, thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All very good information. We need to protect our wildlife.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much.